Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Free Agents podcast. Back again for some more pre-agents, beginning another season here today. Season 5 of the challenge, Real World Road Rules Battle of the Seasons. We have 32 contestants to talk about today. Maybe we won't get to every single one of them, but of course we will get to a lot through this episode this podcast is going to cover the first 5 episodes plus part of episode 6, rather than leaving you on a cliffhanger as the show did after episode 5. So we're covering 5 1/4 episodes here today. Of course, I am Matt here with Brian Scally first. Scally, how are you?
Hello. I'm so good. Always excited to jump into a new season, either be reintroduced to people that I remember well or become newly acquainted with people that I don't. So that's always fun, but mostly because we've got a very fun guest joining us again for the 5th time on this run.
5th time on this run, 100th time on this podcast network. Of course, we are joined back for the beginning of another season by Mel. Mel, how are you?
Hey, I'm very good and so thrilled to be back to talk about yet another season of the challenge where, gaining some momentum into the new millennium.
32 contestants. Like, what is this? The challenge of today? Like, this is insane.
I know. I did not remember the cast being this big.
Even looking at the Wikipedia page, it just looks smaller because they have the names next to one another. And I'm just like, wait a second, there are so many people here. But we'll get to all of that. Of course, before we get into season 5, we have a little bit of old business to get into from season 4 as we were wrapping it up. Not Battle of the Seasons, Extreme Challenge. We just wrapped up. We named our Mount Rushmore, but Mel, we had one thing on the Mount Rushmore that we needed your help with in deciding. Have you thought through the decision that needs to be made?
I did. And I'm a little surprised even with myself of how I feel.
Scott, any final pitches just in case?
I just think, look, you gotta look at who was the number 1 person of a season and remember that legacy without remembering recency bias. Don't be swayed by recency of a show that was put out in the year 2000.
Okay. I was so obviously willing to just let Scally have his answer of Cynthia stays on because I think he was just felt a little bit more passionately in believing that should be the case than I felt. I just felt like I had a good argument for Ayanna. But Mel, can I guess, just considering you said you were surprised by what you came to the conclusion of, I feel like you were surprised that you didn't think it should be Ayanna. Am I correct?
I actually do think Ayanna should be there. And here's the thing which is I love Cynthia. I think she was, obviously I came on this podcast praising her for All Stars when she came. I willed her into existence on All Stars. Of course, it was me who put that in the universe. But I do think in sort of the pantheon of things, I remember Cynthia being entertaining and I enjoyed her there. But as we're watching more and more of these, who's sticking with me, who's kind of falling off, Cynthia is starting to fall off a little. And I do think that what Ayanna brought this season, while limited, to be kicked off is pretty iconic, good or bad, first person kicked off the challenge, at least. People have been kicked off the other shows. And I think Ayanna brought a really important discussion very early into the show about race and treatment and everything. And I think putting her on the Mount Rushmore is there. I do think she has obviously other iconic appearances.
To come, yeah.
But for now, I do think she gets her spot in this season. I think it was her and Julie, and the rest are they were there and they had a nice time. And I think that maybe not to jump ahead too much, if I were to put someone from last season on Mount Rushmore in the future, I feel like based on these early episodes, we're starting to see Emily be a lot more interesting this time around than her first time around.
Yeah. Scally's still trying to figure out if it's Emily or somebody else.
Huh.
Yeah, she is just
season, so that's awkward.
No disrespect to the dead. I believe Michelle has passed away by this point. I think it was, I believe, based on the dates, pretty short term in between.
Rest in peace, and yes, then definitely not Michelle here.
But also Emily did change her hair, so that could be why, because Emily had the long hair, then that hideous short borderline, like I know you discussed on the pod, like how deep of a brown black color it was. It's very weird. I remember that a bit in the back of my brain. And now she has short blonde hair again, a better cut. It's fitting. It's sitting nicely. She broke like probably the cardinal rule, which is I always think to not get your hair cut as a woman immediately before something because it needs to settle for a while. I don't know how men's hair works.
Yeah, differently, I guess. Not with the same amount of thought for me, at least. Scally, maybe different story.
Yeah.
All right. So Ayana officially entering the Mount Rushmore as the tie is broken there.
Sorry, Cynthia.
Yeah, sorry, Cynthia. Sorry, Scally. And you know, I would not be surprised. I don't know that it's as much of a lock that Eric drops off like this season, you know, for example, but
okay,
it's
getting really ahead of it, but sure.
No, I'm just like when we're talking about the season 1 people that are, you know, sure. Obviously there's only one left at this point. It's like Eric probably is the biggest standout from season 1, and that's why he's the last one remaining here. But you know, just as time goes on, and you know, there's more things happening. It's hard to just hold on to, you know, unless it was like really, really, really powerful, significant on their season. You know, we'll get to it when we get to it at the end of the season. But
you know what you kind of need is the Mount Rushmore is very tough, and especially because this is many seasons and people are going to fall a lot, and it's going to be very intriguing. It feels almost like a Hall of Presidents is needed to kind of get one of each, since there are so many of them.
Yeah, well, I try to not think about the Hall of Presidents. At least
that is true. Yeah, we need something else that's equivalent to a lot of them. I just can't think of top of mind.
You know what?
Well, let's get into Battle of the Seasons. And Scally, again, 32 freaking people are here on this cast. Talk to us a little bit more about, I don't know, your thoughts on that number of people, on the format, on what we have going on here.
It's so many. It starts to feel a little bit like a challenge that's going to come much later in the run that I don't even remember how much we have watched each. Kind of like the spring break challenge where just like, oh my God, there's so many people here and I don't know what they're doing. And these are like very silly games. And not everyone is getting basically any screen time, but obviously I think this is much better, but it is so much thrown at me immediately with these 32 people.
It is. And Mel, we have a lot of people here, or maybe not a lot, a handful of people here that we have already seen through the first 4 seasons. This is the first challenge season to bring back people that have already competed on a challenge of sorts, but the format is different. It's not a road rule style game anymore. It is still real world versus road rules at the end of the day, but it is just a different style where you have everybody competing in predetermined pairs. And the format of the game is different, where people are going home throughout the season. So big changes from the last couple seasons.
Absolutely. I didn't remember that pairs had started much earlier than even I remembered on my own. I remember Fresh Meat, but I hadn't had in my mind the Battle of the Seasons being that. In fact, when they started to land and, you know, jump out the plane, I started to get confused because I hadn't paid attention. Then I was like, oh, they're in pairs, but they're also a broader team. I was very interested in this concept.
And as we'll talk about the format as we, you know, get into everything here, I was like, oh, I know that people go home every episode, but I had forgotten that it wasn't, you know, we're not at eliminations just yet. You don't get a chance to save yourself. We're basically playing Challenge Survivor right now, right? Of just like a specific group of people that win a challenge get to determine who they are voting out of their team, their tribe, however you want to put that, Scally.
Yeah, a little bit of a hybrid of a format where there is only a select group of people who get to make that decision whatsoever. The inner circle, a concept that will stick around on a number of other seasons, and I do think is fairly interesting. You know, we play with that in terms of what, like the Troika and many other iterations in the future, but I think that the formatting here is like a fun little experiment.
And we have our we've talked about this a couple times. We have our hosts, or I guess not in this podcast. We haven't talked about it yet. We have our hosts, 2 previous contestants from the first season of the challenge, or the Real World Road Rules Challenge. We have Eric, and then we have Mark Long from the season 2 are here hosting things. Mark was hosting the reunion of last season, so not surprised to see that pick. And Mel, would you say that like Eric was just a popular figure at the time, and that's why he's a part of this team, or any like thought process behind these 2 being the ones to do it?
Yes, I think twofold. One, both being OGs, both being in the entertainment industry. And as we saw in that very first season of Real World All-Stars and that Winnebago. Eric definitely thought big of himself and his career prospects. I would say of early people, he really did get a boon in his career from being on the Real World. So it makes sense. He was kind of part of the MTV family before with The Grind and some other stuff. So it's logical. But I do think the level of like professionalism between host and player is so different than what we see now, which is very enjoyable. It's giving weekend Survivor host kind of thing.
Oh, yes.
See,
I like it.
feel like it makes total sense, having been that they both were on the first season of their respective shows. And I think that they were very popular figures, very active figures in the community. Though I will say, it becomes very clear to me very quickly, Mark is a much better host than Eric is, at least in what we've seen so far.
Yeah. Oh, and that was like, definitely clear just from watching, where Mark kept like introducing every different challenge or talking about like they were giving him the more important stuff. And then Mark was like, and Eric is going to demonstrate how to put a pool thing around your neck, a tube around your neck. And that was Eric's role in a lot of these different parts. But that's that is who is here hosting. Also, though, Scally, we have the difference in format again, where instead of driving all around the world, essentially, as they were doing last season, we are staying in one location. We're in Mexico, and we're staying in one villa with hurricanes impacting that at times. We'll get to that. And they have to create challenges that they can do on location.
Yes, we are in 2 separate villas by team. We are down in Mexico. It is nice weather. Nothing could possibly go wrong on that front. And it is fun to see all of these people living just like in one space, where I think they were used to be in like obviously a much more confined space. They have a lot more area to move around, but the fact that they are not moving from location to location, I think also makes them go a little stir crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mel, do you have any specific thoughts about the format that we have here, where again, the teams are still real world and road rules, but we're introducing the inner circle, which is the specific group of players from each team, 6 total players from each team as of right now, as far as the format is concerned, that are going to vote off one pair from their team at the end of each challenge.
First, I want to call out too that the Road Rules team makes a comment that since they're not in Winnebagos, which that's what they're used to, they're getting to experience what it's like to be in the real world, which is to live in a big house and have a pool table, because a pool table was a staple of every real world house. You had to have a pool table. That was
now I want to go in the real world.
Yeah, you can look. It's very famous. But I like this format. I love the idea of the inner circle. I think I have my qualms about being able to eventually make any sort of headway. But I also think that these early episodes have shown, outside of probably one incredibly strong team, that there is ability to move. But I was curious, like, once you maybe win back to back, are you at a point advantage that would just be near impossible to penetrate that circle?
That I think is the problem. Is I think it's nice to reward people who have been doing consistently well in terms of, looking forward towards that final 4 elimination. And is it just whoever has the lowest point total has to go home because they're the only person available to send home? But I think that in these early couple rounds, the fact that if you just lose the first mission, it's really hard to then jump up to the top. It becomes a little static potentially, and maybe forming a different inner circle based on each individual challenge performance, like I do believe happens in the future, might be a little better.
Definitely interesting how, we're going to talk specifically, the first 5 episodes here, that at least 2 teams, actually, it looks like 3 teams were in the inner circle every episode. The Miz and Cora, by the way, I'm going to call them the Miz. There's like 3 Mikes, 2 Hollies. Like they really, didn't help us with all these.
And no last initials, which we're used to now.
And God, I had a problem with Emily and Michelle last season. There are 14 blonde women here.
Mm-hmm. and like, also 14 similar looking white men.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's both ends of things make it tough to figure out who's talking. And they started introducing some lower thirds more consistently than past seasons, but still not every time. And that's annoying.
Because in any like conversational scene, they're not going to have them. And so very quickly was I screenshotting the intro shots and pasting them all together. I have my screen split up into thirds so I can possibly tell these people apart.
Yes, it's we'll get into some of these players specifically, of course, as we go here. But Timmy and Emily, Theo and Holly B from Road Rules, and then on the Real World team we have the Miz and Coral, who are in the inner circle every time because of the way that the points work with this cumulative system that the points that you get in each challenge add to the points that you've already had, and that's what keeps you at the top of the board. They even have a board in the house that shows the leaderboard, and they can take the each individual team's panel out of the board to put it back in. Not something that they've strayed far from, even to modern day challenges. You slide your name tag out and put somebody else's in for whatever the reason. That kind of board is still used, but it was definitely interesting to see how that dynamic came into play, and also Mel, with the strategies that the inner circles are using on each team to determine who goes home, because we're going to see very quickly that both teams have different ideas on how they want to play it. In the same way of like early Survivor, you see in season 1 of Survivor, they're quickly, one group is realizing, let's make an alliance that'll help us go far in the game. This is the first time that the challenge has played with this kind of format of sending people home. And so Survivor's already done a good job at like inventing strategy to this point that people can kind of look at and say, how do I get myself to the end of the game? But in this world, in this orbit of the challenge, they're having to figure it out essentially for the first time again in this show.
Yes, this is fascinating to see begin, because like you said, we're seeing the origins of the name tags up on the board and everything, and how we do the inner circle, which has evolved into many a jargon and really, clunky things that we're trying to figure out what to call those people now. But the strategy being introduced into the game, we saw Ramona last season, the show had aired, but now they're finally feeling the Survivor impact of like, how do we make this show relevant with what is the TV culture? And that is so interesting to watch as Road Rules takes this initial hyper competitive stance of only keeping around the weak, get rid of the people who are coming for us next. Whereas the Real World wants a more cooperative take, get rid of the worst team, so that way we're making the strongest team. And I think part of it is that I had forgotten that eventually what will happen is they do get down. They kept saying getting down to a final 6, and I just thought it was like finalist, but they are essentially pairs as part of a team that are looking to build one final team for the end of the show is what I'm starting to perceive it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, do we think that the Road Rules team is more competitive because they come from a competition show essentially in their own start? And plus, Road Rules does get to a point where if you fail a certain number of missions, you have to vote off someone. So they're not completely new to voting. It's just the show that they come from, while a competition show is much more about like the competitive spirit and like we're working together. Here, all of a sudden, they have to turn on each other.
Well, so Road Rules had only had at this point one season that had voted.
Okay.
And
yeah,
that was
about Yesel is the only one who's ever been voted off of a show like this so far.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was a free ride on Road Rules or ever by Adam specifically.
No, sorry, ever on Road Rules. So they introduced that at this season right before. So whatever the Road Rules season is, it's called The Quest. So The Quest was the first time that they gave them stakes on the missions. Before, I believe they even like failed a mission, which I don't think it was often. I think they had like ways to earn it back, but you weren't kicked off the show unless you did something to violate, like a behavior violation, or I don't think anybody just like up and quit that I can remember. I'm sure it probably actually did happen. But so Hisela is the only person who has experienced being voted off of a Road Rule show. But I do think it is that combination of Road Rules being in a competitive nature and trying to win that handsome reward, that sort of jock mentality. And I wonder if it's a little bit of that, the after effects of Real World won the last season. Oh, now we've got to step it up. So there's an element of that again, that we're Road Rules and we're unstoppable.
I definitely think that that's become a thing. Like every season that passes, you hear the team, like the new Real World or Road Rules team, talking about what happened in the last season. And we've seen, now we saw Real World finally get their win last season after Road Rules had done it 2 times in a row. And so it just genuinely feels like they're picking up on things that the teams did last time around and wanting to make changes here. I think it was Road Rules actually this time around. Correct me if anybody remembers otherwise, that we see them get in the giant prayer circle. I don't know how much we talked about it
yes.
last season, but Real World was doing that before every challenge last season. They were praying and getting together and using that as a way for team unity. Gotta say, I'm a little happy that doesn't still exist today, just for my own preference of what reality television, what I look for in my reality television. But that's what Team Road Rules was saying. Oh, it brought them unity, and let's bring that back here.
That actually was one of the questions I reached out to my group chat, but people couldn't remember Holly and Chadwick. And if anybody who is listening recalls, please inform me. I do not recall either of them on their initial seasons being like the avid Christ-like follower kind of archetype. For example, there are other people, like I think Josh was a little bit more of a religious person on Road Rules South America, and that's me having to Google it, if we're being honest. I wrote in my notes, I don't remember Josh, but I don't remember Holly in particular being one with the Lord, but maybe her and Chadwick and their love story found them, not to jump ahead too far.
Things have changed if there wasn't the case that earlier. It's also interesting. I mean, is this a good time to get into the cast, or did anybody have anything else like format wise or team wise? Just for Holly and Chadwick, we're going to see a lot of people here again that we haven't seen. If you're not a Real World or Road Rules viewer like myself, I'm meeting a lot of these people for the first time, right now, as far as paying attention to their stories. So, to hear them talk about, oh yeah, and then we met, we fell in love, and we're married. I'm like, oh wow, jumping right into it here. No challenge showmance that brought them back seasons later or anything like that. Well, obviously a showmance from different worlds, but they also weren't from the same season of a show, right?
No.
They
met I think she said the finale party, which is Maximum Velocity also hadn't filmed that far before this. So that is, I would say, a pretty quick turnaround for an engagement.
Just very interesting, of a dynamic to be introducing here, and all of these other people with a lot of other dynamics that we need to get to know. Does anybody have a place that we want to start? We're not going to talk about all 32 names, but we can do a couple of highlights of who's here.
Well, I guess you already mentioned them. Let's talk about Chadwick and Holly. I think the fact that they are a married couple coming into this game together is extremely interesting. They are automatically tied to each other as a married couple, but also their partners in the person that is from their season. So all of a sudden you have 2 out of 8 teams on the season, and 2 of the more competitive, strong teams automatically aligned. It created such an interesting dynamic that I'm excited to keep talking about through this portion. But I think that I'm sad to find out they don't come back again.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on this cast, truly like half, if not more, that are one-time challengers from this entire cast, and I was shocked to see that. But specifically, Holly and Chadwick are both this is their only appearance, and let's talk about like their story throughout these couple of episodes, because we lose one of them. We lose Chadwick. They're on the Road Rules team, and they're both part of the first inner circle, and they are both part of the decision to send home Yes and Veronica, which we'll circle back to those two. But they establish within that group, a kind of Chadwick specifically establishes this idea that let's send home strong competitors so that we can stay in the inner circle and control the game and get ourselves to the end and have a better chance to win. That doesn't go over well with a lot of people, Gisela very specifically. And so when there's even one opportunity, takes not much time at all to turn the tables on Chadwick, unfortunately for Piggy, and Piggy as well as Chadwick's partner, Mel, they completely lose what they had going for them.
One of my favorite moments of when we watched this is after the first episode. So they have the next challenge, and they do, is that the inner tube tango, the musical tango, whatever it is, they get out very early. And the cheers from every single person playing about them being eliminated and going home is a laugh riot. And it happens multiple times, because also eventually happens to Holly, but never a pair quite as despised, which is, it's just so interesting because they do have so much stakes. In fact, it comes up later after we lose Chadwick, this idea of what do we do? Like, should we come up with some way to share all the prize pot? And Holly's instinct is to reject it because she needs to talk to Chadwick, who's not even in the game anymore, that she speaks, even though they try to insist that, no, we are separate, but then they change their tune a lot. They are, boy, are they insufferable. I'm actually shocked they're not back, but not to spoil it off for everybody. But I recall they still are together. So
I looked that up, and I was trying to see like when they split, just because you assume a couple that got together in 2002 maybe didn't make it. Just, I don't know, random assumption. Didn't see anything about a split. It does seem like they're still together. So look at that.
props for another success story that just low key because it happened off the show. And I'm sure, many of these people hook up off the show.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody came on and gave Scallion a challenge trivia, a couple weeks ago, and they were like, what couples are still together? No chance of winning.
0%. Yeah. Would never, ever have known. I just think it's such an interesting dynamic. And I'm really curious how it was perceived, especially at the time of the air date, where they are completely villainized almost on the show from my point of view, and it is like discussion of how they are completely ostracized in the house. They're the villains, and most of the cutscenes where they're being discussed as to them being the villains is them like praying. So I'm just so interested in the dichotomy of that, in like how you would normally expect that to be presented on the show. So I find them to be absolutely fascinating characters, and as much as like a downfall is exciting, I'm very sad that they go home. So Chadwick goes home so early.
And he takes Piggy with him. Piggy, who of course we've seen Piggy on season 3 already. We've gotten to know Piggy a little bit. No more Piggy after this. This is the last time.
I know, it's tragic. I thought Piggy had at least one more appearance in her, and I was hoping that we would have this nice, fun early run of Piggy, but that's it. We're done.
And not a whole lot to speak on of what she does here. Was there anything else?
Fun.
She's just like a great character. She's a narrator. She knows what she's there for, and I do think based on last time, less than this time she seemed maybe to have that mentality of like, these are my friends and I don't want to screw them over. But I felt like she was a pretty strong game player the last time, even though they weren't even at this level of playing the game.
Well, the gameplay that comes into all of this is between Gisela and Piggy, right? Piggy is the one that leaks the information that gets riots going in the house.
It's so funny, and like there's between that and commentary that Piggy gives on multiple people on the season, she's going to come up quite a bit here, I think, in these early episodes. But just even the fact that Piggy was going around this house being like, we gotta split up the couple, and like, Piggy, you're attached to the couple, right? Like that means you will go home. So Piggy, fun regardless of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. But we do need to talk about Gisela and her role in all of this, because the couple is such a big highlight, and Gisela is specifically, first of all, star of the challenge All-Star season 1. It's been a tragedy that we haven't had her back since that season. I know she got injured I think during the season, so she wasn't going to come back right away, but I don't know, All-Star 6, like
I don't think she wants it, sadly.
I think you're right. But I do. So that's all that matters.
I'm afraid that All Stars doesn't. And this is what's sad, because we're rewatching this. And I think that at the end of it, you two will be craving to see some of these people again. Yep. And now, sadly, I feel the show
going away
as a broader thing doesn't even want them. They just want the recency people. I mean, not totally none, but I think you're like harder pull to get a Sharon ever on All Stars 6 as opposed to somebody who's going to show up later as challenge competitor.
Given that Sharon never comes back, I think that's okay. But there's other people.
I'm just throwing out a name. How dare you? Sharon wins the toga contest. Spoiler.
Queen.
She looked very iconic in that moment, but had essentially no other screen time. And that's, I think, the consequence of having 32 people here and 19-minute episodes is there are, I would say, like 15 cast members who have 0 screen time through the first 5 episodes.
The shocking one was Flora being there and having Flora does not make a presence known for quite some time. And that's not on her. Just you see her there. And I think she finally speaks maybe like in episode 6, I think.
Yeah, through 5 episodes, 1 confessional for Flora.
Yeah.
Insane.
So I guess, I don't know, maybe that's why it takes so long for them to get her back in the mix.
I'll tell you too, though, there are a lot more nutters this season of people to focus on screen time than Flora, which is a very crazy statement to make. But but we'll save her for when we get there for my favorite nut of the season.
Ooh.
I think we all know the drama.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very close to getting to at least one person that I think.
We'll just do it.
No, I'm not done with Gisela yet.
Okay.
Because it's also specifically it feels important to flag up Gisela's partner Adam, our latest and most recent challenge champion. Adam, of course, and another member of the Road Rules the Quest cast, Steve, just winning All Stars 5. Gisela and Adam, back in their first season of the challenge, have some of their story intertwined with the Holly and Chadwick of it all, because it seems like Adam and Chadwick were friendly, and Ysella really had to like get into Adam's head that they were not like friendly enough to make it worth their while to invest in them in this game, and that they should really be working to get them out. So just interesting to see, again, our recent All-Stars champion Scally all the way back in his first days, and honestly his gameplay not too far off from what we saw at today.
It's exactly the same, where Gisela comes in as like, they said that they were almost going to vote us off last time, so we should try working against them. And Adam's like, I don't really want to do that. I just want to have fun, and I'm not going to play scared that they're going to vote me off. If they vote me off, like, that's fine. It's like, Adam, come on, like, get it together. And it's excusable here, but the fact that it's literally like his first episode ever on the challenge, he's confronted with gameplay and can't handle it, and still hasn't figured it out 30 years later, is kind of a problem.
It's very funny. But I definitely just had my eye on them, knowing both of them, and I get it's probably just straight up comes down to, I know who these two people are,
yes,
and I don't need the name tags attached to them.
Yeah.
And they look largely the same. Like, they look great.
Yeah,
sure.
She had a lot going on in these episodes. When Veronica leaves, and again, we'll still circle back to Veronica, but she and Veronica had gotten close on the couple of days that they were there together, so she got a big highlight after Veronica leaves. So just fun to see her. But I think both of you are ready to talk about another cast member, and I'm just guessing who that is.
A special pair.
I screamed because I knew this was a thing, but I had completely forgotten and didn't know which season it was on. I don't know if this ever happens again. I'm thinking no. But when we have a cast member who's like, "Hi, I'm Baloo, and here's my baby."
Wait, hold on. What time is it? It is 30 minutes or so into this podcast, and this is the first time we're mentioning it. It's that's on all of us, but we're here now. Baloo and her baby.
I could not believe it, and it's just like had looked away for the screen for like literally 1 second. I think I blinked, and so I missed that the baby actually appears on screen like before Baloo is even talking. But I was just completely blindsided by the fact that there is a baby in the challenge house. It is 6 months old. There is a crib set up for this baby. Becomes the source of lots of discussion and lots of drama. But Baloo, a single mother, still showing up to the challenge, and they're providing daycare? Question mark.
Why is Cadence not coming to the challenge house? Like, we can hang out with the kids too.
No.
Absolutely not. The opposite direction and not wanting this to be a thing. I don't know. It'd be fun. Maybe not for the kids that are this young, especially 6 freaking months. Mel, I feel like you've been waiting your whole life to talk about Baloo and bringing her baby on a challenge podcast. Well, not on the challenge podcast, but you know what I mean.
So I don't know if you watch it. I sent it in invisible ink so as not to spoil who Baloo is. What I will say about Baloo is the drama. Baloo is unhinged. Baloo just pops off the handle. She is like, that is what she did on her first season.
Oh boy.
And to an extent, she does that a bit here, at least to start. She is they must have really just felt her value of TV gold to bring her back, because no disrespect to her partner, Chris, but he's like kind of a non-entity. He's just like, again, just like there were a lot of just like nice dudes who do road roles, that they're like, they're fine. He was somebody that I think in history, I remember him being more attractive than when I see him now. Yeah, still a good looking man, but just like, back in the day, probably thinking like, wow. Now I'm like,
that was just
you're
freaking
fine.
Ugly. Oh,
I'm just like, you're fine. You're fine. We've seen a lot of very attractive people, and you're like,
yeah. And with a partner like Baloo, his one-time appearance here is certainly not going to land him a spot like anywhere near Mount Rushmore. So not much here on Chris, but Baloo,
he should have had a mullet too, like Baloo does.
Baloo might as well have just had like her baby as her partner, and that would have been a much more compelling story. I don't know. It's just this is
got more screen time.
It's very captivating to be like, oh, bring your baby here. I think what's a very interesting element is the dynamic of let's talk about just like the house, like some of the, I don't know how many, the person we see most vocal about despising a baby in her presence is Piggy. But I think it is kind of crazy to just, like they are trying to party in this house. It's loud. There's 32 people. So there's 16 in each house. And then there's an infant. So it is a very interesting position to put everybody in, of the baby crying, and like that they didn't give her, I don't know, a separate villa or something to isolate them.
And let's, the whole thing here is, of course, that there's a nanny here for the baby. Baloo was able to have her nanny also brought out to the villa. Yeah, obviously this seems like production, would have flown the nanny out as well. So every time that like she does have to go to compete or be a part of the production here, the show that's being filmed, the nanny is watching the baby. But like at first it's funny. I mean, like they get like a text message, they had to go somewhere, and Baloo's like, "No, I just put the baby to bed." I'm like, what the hell is happening?
So funny. You get a text that's like, "Hurry up." She's like, "Hurry up, I have a baby." Like, what do you mean hurry up? So her teammate immediately being like, "Baloo, take your time, it's fine, like deal with the baby and then we'll see what happens." But I just don't feel like this was extremely sustainable as an idea. And I'm sorry, like I really enjoy children, but if I show up to the challenge house and you have a baby, I'm voting you out immediately. Screw out everyone is doing in the competition. I do not need a baby here.
Somebody one time brought a dog even to Survivor Lake House, and that created just enough tension to be like, do we keep this guy around or do we let him go sit with his dog all day? Like
this was the circle back in the day.
Oh, I do. The circle's
story.
That is pretty iconic. Yeah, I guess like the solo experience of the circle makes it a little okay. What I do love about it is I love that it is equitable, that it's like, oh, bring your kid here. Come have fun. You can do this, make your money. This is your job, whatever. I guess if they were just like in hotel rooms or some other situation, or they had like a special accommodation, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
But it seems, I mean, they knew exactly what they were doing, which is, it'd be really funny if we put a baby in the house with them.
For sure. Like they're already, growing in popularity, I'm sure, as these challenges are going on. And then they're like, let's, different format plus a baby. And Scally, I'm with you. I thought the Baloo was more than just one season, but it's just a simple 5 episodes of getting to meet Baloo, see that she brought her baby, and this is the legend of the story.
I think that's enough. I think that the baby had enough trauma for one childhood going on the challenge for 5 episodes. I think, there are various situations that come up where people are talking about potential parenting skills and the baby and stuff where, look, I'm never going to question people's parenting skills, but I also am judging people slightly less than I would otherwise for questioning them at the same time in this watch. So I'm kind of just like, do you want like this discussion I am removing for myself from, and I am okay with the fact that we don't have to have it a lot moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, they were like, I wonder what the baby's first words are going to be. Like,
that she's going to curse.
Yeah, that's
I'm not even allowed to say HE double hockey sticks in front of my parents. Shut up, Holly.
Yeah, look, in the initial look, there's a hurricane, and they're like, maybe we need
to talk about it together here, because like,
it's a big.
This is I think a connective storyline here. We don't just have back it up. We have a hurricane that rolls through. Hurricane Juliet. Look it up like on the internet if you want to see like how crazy this was, because I did a little bit of just like looking around here. I was certainly alive in the year 2001, but I not paying attention to hurricanes, I guess, unless they were coming near me at my age of I think 7. And so you see that there's a storm rolling through, and eventually we're going to see just how bad it is. It's a category 4 hurricane. I don't know if it was a category 4 at the time it hit land where they were, but it certainly looked very, very bad.
Yes.
And only got worse as, the days were going on, and there's a baby in the house.
Yeah. And look, here's the thing. They're like taking it pretty casually at first, where these people are way too close to the water. They're standing on rocks that get very slippery. Someone is in the water. I'm just like, okay,
one of the mics.
Stop. They're just going out to restaurants. Like, you think it's going to be bad? And it gets so bad they can't even return home at points. And I think that the question of maybe no one should be by the window that might break in this category for hurricane is a valid question to be raised. But the fact that it was about Baloo's baby came into as if she was being criticized for her parenting skills, where it's like maybe just no one at all should be near the window. And so that definitely became quite the topic of conversation. Baloo did not appreciate. being questioned on her parenting skills.
No. And again, the nanny was there, but the nanny wasn't always the one watching Baloo's baby. We're going to see at one point, like the power goes out on the place that they were staying, and they also move locations at a certain point because they needed to be brought to somewhere safer. And without power, they end up having a toga party. They cut to at like the end of that episode with the toga party that Baloo is dressed up, but not like super participating because she's watching the baby.
Yeah, she like pops by, I think, but I think it's implied. So when they have this toga party too, and I think this is another element to it, which is I don't think Baloo would take kindly to anybody speaking about her parenting, because that's how Baloo is. And I think that's how any parent would be. No one wants criticism. But it's Chadwick and Holly who are so abrasive, and we don't know, we're seeing an edited show, whatever. I think there's probably some just cause of like nobody likes them. Yeah. And that is like a part of this. So when they get to this hotel, there's no power, there's no phone lines. Like they are truly all trapped together. They start to go bonkers. Chadwick and Holly omit themselves from the toga party, and they don't even make like a costume, make an appearance. They just stay in their room. And at least Baloo wants to be part of the group, but I think Baloo just has the responsibilities of it. So, she pops by, probably had a few Coronas. We saw Corona, the unofficial sponsor, or maybe official. I haven't looked at the credits, but a lot of Corona consumed on this trip. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I remember that toga party very well. By the way. Yeah, it's nice. They're trying now. Not that they weren't before, but they're trying harder.
They have some music blasting in these scenes. Pink, Get the Party Started, like is going during the
music
party.
Is killing it this season. I remember, I don't know if you did watch the season preview, and I'm not going to spoil, but I remember very distinctly the promo for the season preview, and the song that they chose when they show like all the like teases of hookups and stuff. That's my core memory unlocked of this season. Yeah, besides that baby.
Even just the fact that they're competing for $300,000, I was like,
yeah,
you're winning more than like All Stars
in Chili's cash, mind you.
Oh my God. The way I lost my mind for Chili's cash was I immediately texted the group chat about that we love Chili's to send it. Oh, is it a Chili's gift card? No, it's just sponsored by Chili's. A lot of discussion about the Chili's cash.
Yeah, I would not mind that much money in Chili's cash or in regular cash. But just like the way that this whole hurricane is handled, it's just like another thing that you can tell production was very unprepared for. I mean, who could be prepared for a hurricane? But just like having a plan in place that it's not until it gets very bad. Like they clearly had some warnings that things were going to be bad. We have Mark and Eric come out to like tell the teams today's mission is going to be canceled because of the weather. They tell them like sit back and enjoy the rain. At first is their advice to these people, rather than like get in the bus, we're taking you somewhere safer. And then eventually Mark and Eric are like outside in the hurricane as if they are actual newscasters reporting the news, which a lot of newscasters on the cast these days. But they are like, it's really raining out here. This is crazy. I'm like, can we get everybody to safety? This is insane.
It was a lot. It was definitely a lot. And when they did end up touring the villa post hurricane, and it's like there's no sewage, there's no electricity, all of the sand has eroded, just like it is in complete disarray, all the paths are gone. It was shocking. I did not think they were to get back into the villas by the end of the season based on how it had been presented. So nice to confirm that they did in fact get those repairs done pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious also how it impacted the challenges, because at least for the first couple after they return, it does seem like maybe they had to pivot some things last minute and change, because the first challenge to me had a pretty grandiose scale of what it is. And then after that, it is like we're jumping into a pool to grab inner tubes. And I'm curious if they had to change what they were planning, because maybe they had all these big stunts, but you couldn't access it due to the hurricane, the after effects, the everything going on.
Yeah, I mean, they all needed to be in a safe location, and I don't know that production was prepared for what they ultimately ended up getting by any means. But they get through it, and luckily, as far as we know, nobody is injured or anything like that, as far as we know. Do we want to work backwards a little bit and maybe get to the first sets of eliminations and how that all goes down?
Sure. Let's talk about it because there's lots of more exciting cast members here, but I think that we'll get to them as we go, or we won't, and that will tell you how much they gave to the show.
Yeah, let's talk about the eliminated teams. I guess just for the sake of picking one, John Brennan and Beth are going to be the first team eliminated from the real world side of things. First of all, Beth has a nickname given to her by Norm.
Nope.
That is absolutely insane.
Nope.
That Scally saying nope. I don't think he wants to say it. Do we just not want to say it, or I'll say it. The nickname given to Beth by Norm is Osama Beth Laden.
Literally insane. This doesn't actually surprise me looking back on this time. I feel like this is completely in line with how people were talking, but I am just like, this is legitimately crazy. The fact that this is how we're talking about Beth really kills me in some of these scenes because she is just so incredibly passive aggressive. She's like, I have nothing against Norman. It's just sad that he's pushing 40, a sad little man who has no success to his life and has he's an angry little bad seed on this earth. Like, okay.
Which is so funny because of this cast, if you were to flag who comes back the most times, has nothing else going on.
Definitely thought about that.
Math. We haven't introduced Anissa yet, so think about it.
It's so funny. I legitimately was cackling as Beth is discussing Norman, just reading him to absolute filth with a smile every time.
I also was like not surprised that a passionate or I don't know, intelligent gay man is one of the first people that Beth finds herself in a feud with. I don't know, it felt believable. Also, I was trying to do all my searching to see where are all the gay people, and because they don't, obviously they don't make it too obvious all the time. Like Scally, you're always tweeting at the beginning of a Survivor season, just tell me who tell me who the queer people are. I'm kind of doing my own research along the way.
Two who are out at this time, and then one who is not out, if I recall.
Well, so Norman and Danny at least
are and then somebody else eventually comes out. But it's like a long way off.
I think when we discuss them, we can discuss all of their story at one time. I will say now that you also bring up Danny. Danny is one of the people that I am very interested in on this season. I think him and Kelly, both on the same real world season as Julie and Jamie, who were on last season. Danny, his big storyline, I think what he is most remembered for is that this is the era of don't ask, don't tell. And Danny actually on his season kind of is in a relationship with someone who is actively in the military. And so they tell this story while blurring this man's face for the entirety of the season. And only on Homecoming, the real world Homecoming recently, where they all got to go back and live in that real world house, did we meet this fit man with his face in current day.
Wow.
Yeah, super important and awful that it happened, but it is very valuable to go back and watch. So I was very invested in Danny coming into here.
Yeah, I don't feel like we got much or enough of him. I mean, but it's also early.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kelly also ends up being a much bigger performer in the challenges than I would have assumed. At this point, Kelly is still dating a guy named Peter, who was a doctor she met in New Orleans. But long term, that does not work out. Kelly is married to actor Scott Wolf. They've been married for quite some time. He was on, at this point, would have been huge because Party of Five. What does he end up on later? He does a bunch of stuff. I don't know. You can Google him. I feel like he was on some teen drama that I just can't place right now.
Every time Kelly has a confessional, it's I'm so excited to have won this. When I told my boyfriend, Peter, you all know Peter, he is back home, and it's okay, Kelly, we get it. You're still with Peter.
Yeah, no, Peter comes up a lot. And again, I don't know Peter, or obviously I should say I don't know Peter because I haven't watched these real world seasons, but they're from the same season, just to clarify.
Not a cast member, just a man.
No, it was a guy she met in New Orleans. Yeah, just met a doctor. I forget how, but yeah, she just meets a guy.
Oh yeah, I mean, his name came up so much, like you're saying, that I was assuming that we should have known Peter.
Nope. That's just Peter.
I mean, interesting because with the way the real world would operate is that they were allowed to exist outside of this bubble. So you could meet new people, people being brought in and their hookups and their relationships and stuff. So that was always fascinating. But yeah, Dr. Peter I actually put that in my notes before she even brought him up on the show because I wasn't sure, because all I could remember from New Orleans pretty much was that she dated Peter. I know she had
Yeah.
She was a good friend in the house. Her and Danny are, I'd say, a dynamic duo. So it held up then. And I believe in Homecoming, they were still buds too.
Yeah.
Mel, did you have, I almost said Beth. Beth, did you have anything else? No, Mel, did you have
Ultimate
anything else?
insult one could be called. The Beth. If I ever get called the Beth of this.
Mel, did you have anything else on John? His shirt, I don't think made an appearance this season, and he's
no, John's shirt wasn't there. I'm trying to remember if he did have anything cool to wear, but no. John's just you know what he was wearing? I forgot. He does have an iconic shirt on again. John is wearing his Hulkster Hulk Hogan shirt.
God,
which he wears a lot. By the haircut, we should have known he's a Hulk Hogan fan because
I was going to say maybe aged poorly, but I think John might be okay with it. So
yeah, who knows? So. I was going to look up to see if because John says that he did release an album, and I was going to see if it was on Spotify, but I also wouldn't want to listen to it even.
Yeah, he's continued his music in the time since we last saw him, which is not surprising. I think he still has to this day. But Beth is definitely the bigger character between the two of them.
Yeah, we all know that.
Ends up, Beth ends up, of course, like getting just more of the story as these two are eliminated. But Scally, they were polarizing. They were both picked as, the weaker members of their team. And also Beth specifically is somebody who a lot of people didn't get along with. And she wasn't too far off that Norm was part of the inner circle, of course, pushing for Beth to go. So it's quickly out the door.
They make it very clear. They're like, this decision was unanimous. Like, you have to say that. Like, we all really wanted to send home Beth. So that's what we're doing. Like, okay. Yeah.
Yep. So Beth is gone, as are Veronica and Yes, who very, very quick visits with both of them this season. Yes is going to have at least one more season coming up. Veronica, many more seasons coming up, sequentially, I might add, but not here. Mel, they're eliminated nice and early, as we talked about. Road Rules is doing a different strategy of let's get rid of the strong teams.
Completely forgot that they did not last long in this season. And I don't think I necessarily knew where they were, but I did not recall this strategy of Road Rules wanting to take out, if the inner circle is the top three, they set up this precedent that whoever is four that could encroach on their territory is the one who should go. And Yes and Veronica unfortunately fall into that spot, despite there being some discussion of that there are other strong teams or people they're not bonded with. A bummer to see them go. Mostly, I'm a big Yes girl. He's still looking very attractive. And Veronica brings, the drama. And we had just seen, she had her drama in her first season. Her second time around, she was good entertainment, mix of a little drama, but a little serious and a little fun, was a really good blend. So bummer to lose them so quickly in this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was super interesting because this first challenge, which I actually did like a lot, it is like every team member is going to be hanging in pairs from a bar on this large contraption that is all interconnected. So if your team member drops, your bar goes completely vertical and it becomes very difficult. But even also if someone near you drops, then or across the way, it shifts the weight of this contraption completely. It is built in such a way that it happens very fast. Everyone is just boom, 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 boom. We need to completely review the footage to know a single placement here. Yeah. But I thought it was very funny, and the fact that Yes and Veronica do well in this challenge, and that's what leads to their elimination. It felt like such a shit show.
It was a crapshoot to do it. It reminded me of on Physical 100, they do sort of a variation, but it doesn't bounce around like this. Just everyone's hanging. It takes a lot longer. But this was put a bunch of clothing hangers together, then hang something off of it. And then they're springing and flying everywhere. It's very grand. They've learned nothing, even from the future, because we still see challenges construction so bizarrely. But it was very entertaining.
This is a modern Big Brother challenge. They just use little planets instead.
I love it.
Reindeer games. It's fun over there. This was, not that this wasn't fun, but it was very quick. It's
I would love to see it again with a little bit more physics. I'm assuming you would use physics for it. Who knows?
Just built with slightly more expensive materials, this would have gone better. But it just seemed to flex. As soon as one team dropped, the entire board just flexed upon itself and dropped.
I feel like there's a board game, one of those kids board games where you that. I don't know what it is replicating, but it reminds me of that.
Yeah, I feel you.
When Yes and Veronica are leaving, another shout out to the music. I tried so hard and got so far. I was like, this is such a banger to start the season with. I loved it. But I also want to specifically call out almost every team that gets eliminated. They're almost all still rooting for their team that just voted them out.
It's that franchise loyalty that they have, and it remains strong. It's like being in a fraternity or sorority. I think they've even said that on some things in the past. Maybe like the original reunion that they had back in the day.
Yeah, not all of them are this way or feeling this way when they leave, but some of them certainly are. So just intrigued by that. By the way, just jumping in here to throw in a quick mid-pod update. Scally had to run. Everything is all good, but just wanted to throw in that Scally's not here for the rest of this podcast. Just Mel and I, but Scally will, of course, be back with the next part of the challenge coverage here in season 5, and we'll get the rest of his thoughts on anything that we are covering in the remainder of this podcast, which begins with I don't know, where do we want to begin with the rest of what we have left? Or anything else from like the first round of eliminations in your notes from John, Beth, Yes, and Veronica leaving?
Very obviously, I woohooed. One thing I do want to call out too, before we move too far on, is one of my favorite parts of early challenge, which we have lost over the years, -1, very heavy product placement, which is we have prizes again this season.
A lot of prizes.
Yes,
every time that they come up,
I
think of you because I know how much you enjoy them.
Oh, this is my passion. So I do want to call out that for the first challenge, the prize is a Buell Blast motorcycle, which Theo and Holly win. So if you want me to chime in with prizes anytime, let me know. I feel like I should make a list of them to keep the compendium going, the Bible of dated prizes. But I would say a step up from the MP3 player, or last time it was the Jeep prize pack was the first prize, but it was not including a Jeep at all. And in fact, was just bicycles by the Jeep brand.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, definitely. Feel free to chime in with any of those as they come up. As
people want to know, they need to know what brands to support if they time travel. Maybe Buell still exists. I'm not a motorcycle person. I know, shocking.
Yeah, I could not tell you. I think one of the big storylines that we have to get into, I would love to just, kind of go in order and talk about these two people, one of them specifically, as we will see their elimination in this batch of episodes. But there's a consistent storyline throughout all 3 elimination rounds here. Mel, regarding Steven, is there anything that I don't know about Steven prior to this season? And I guess other than like the clip that we see that is very alarming Steven in here. Anything else on this man? It's a one-time challenger, or he is a one-time challenger.
Yeah. So Steven Slap was, I believe it is known as the slap heard around the world. So Steven was in the real world Seattle house, and one of the cast members was Irene. And eventually Irene chooses to leave the show. She has Lyme disease. She's like dealing with it in the house, decides to leave. And when she leaves, she says something to Steven that's pretty inappropriate to an extent. She implies something and he takes very much offense to it, and he slapped her, which is not the right example. And it leads into the house having to decide, like, should Steven be able to remain in the house due to his violent actions? It's a lot. So at this point, what Steven is known for is for slapping Irene, and no one really knows why. He just seems to be in this house right now a little bit of maybe a pot stirrer. He's very into the gossip. He is taking notes when he hears fights and altercations going on, and really wants to be, within it. And immediately and I don't know, I know that they show it a little bit, but it just seemed very random that suddenly him and Coral are just not hitting it off. And I would say if anybody is like the head of the real world team, it's Coral. She is like a magnet and radiates, and everyone wants to be around Coral, it seems. And yeah, it's not Steven's magnet. They're magnets repelling each other.
Right. As we have been, kind of getting into a lot of the different people's stories, again, 32 people on this season, we haven't even really pointed out in a significant way the debuts of both Coral Smith, a challenge legend, and Mike the Miz, entertainment world legend, of course, specifically in the world of wrestling. Both of them making their debuts on this season, and both of them, we talked about them in the sense that both of them are in the inner circle all 3 times through the missions or the challenges we've seen so far. So they're obviously a very strong duo together. And we'll continue to talk about them as we go into the season. But yeah, Coral and Steven not getting along. A lot of people not getting along with Steven, not as, I guess, drastically as it seems to be the case with Steven and Coral. But you see throughout these episodes leading up to Steven and Lindsay getting eliminated that Lindsay is doing everything she can to stand up for Steven and say, trust me, like, I know what you know about him and I know how he acts sometimes, but he's still a really good guy. And Steven gets a very big edit through the episodes that he's in in here. There's a scene at one point of the Road Rules team having a meeting kind of behind closed doors, and Steven is sitting outside the door taking notes of what's going on there. He very clearly wanted to be involved in this game and play the game hard. And when the real world, we also talked about this a little earlier, is discussing a strategy for team unity, which goes as far as to say like finding a way to like split the money that the team makes along the way to keep
they're going to split the
happy.
300,000, the entire pot, if I recall.
Even with people that are eliminated, right? Is
yes,
what they
it's
were
meant to be
at.
like a sort of like, on Survivor that they get paid. It's like, what is it? Like the first person got like $2,500 and it like progresses up. And then there's like the jumps to the winners. It was kind of that. Oh, the first team's eliminated will get like $1,000 and it goes up from there. And Steven wants it in writing because he doesn't believe it.
Yeah. And they're like, we don't know if we need that, but he is like talking about that. He like, I don't know, I guess just doesn't trust everybody, which you're in a challenge house. Definitely no need to, no reason to feel like you can just trust everybody out of nowhere. But it's just a very interesting strategy that gets developed here. Like certainly something that is going to have to be addressed in future seasons, that you can't just make deals like this. Of course, in most shows, especially, definitely today, you can't share money.
Do it on the challenge though. I mean, they have to an extent, right? I mean, isn't that CT and who was he with when they did that?
Casey,
Was it Casey? Oh, it's CT and Casey.
They haven't even fully gone away from.
Yeah, like, and Devin and Tori did it. So it's interesting because I know that there are on some shows it's like strictly forbidden from doing that, and I don't know what technically the challenge allows. And I do want to touch on one thing with Steven as well that we were talking about earlier about who are the queer cast members. So at the time, Steven was not out. And that was actually a lot of what the issue was with with Irene.
Okay.
So I think that, and I don't know Steven, and obviously I'm a straight white woman, so I don't know his experience fully. But I could see potentially Steven's behavior being a bit of acting out from like keeping a lot of other emotions in, so acting out in different ways that just like wasn't gelling with the group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
but I believe he is out now, and I think he's married. So very happy that he hopefully is happy now.
I definitely hope he's happy, despite me being very alarmed at seeing a clip of him slapping a woman. There's a lot going on with this person, and the fact that he doesn't come back to the challenge, I think is okay, that we can just kind of leave him there. I mean, it was definitely an interesting, compelling story throughout these episodes, but still, I'm like, the story continues for him into the second episode. We'll talk about this mission in a second, but he ends up being a part of the top 3 teams by the time that they are done with the second mission. And so while there's a lot of attention on him, Mel, for people thinking that they want to get him out, they can't do it right away in the second elimination because he's part of the team that he's part of the power.
And that's what we want out of this inner circle twist. And I think that's what the show was hoping, but I think they didn't realize maybe mathematically what they were doing was making it very difficult for anybody to get there. Though it does seem like Real World gets a decent amount of fluctuation in their inner circle, minus the stalemates of Mike and Coral.
Mm-hmm. This is, by the way, where we're going to lose Sharon and Mike from the Real World team. Any other thoughts? We already kind of gave Sharon her little bit of credit that we could give, but Mike, nothing to talk
just
about.
Just vibes. Here. They were there for the vibes, and even they acknowledged that as well. They were there for a good time. They lasted one more episode because Sharon had heart, and everyone finds Beth annoying, so it was a pretty easy one. And Mike is a person that I think I mentioned to you in the past. Mike's biggest drama on Real World London was he just really wanted ranch dressing in London, and it didn't exist then. Very tough. We didn't know that, and I would say as a child, ranch dressing was not on my radar until I watched that show. So I will say that he was. Yeah, I think knowing Mike's story was really formative on a child me to be like, what is this ranch dressing you speak of?
That is a beautiful story. Let's talk about the competition though. Musical inner tube tango. And Steven is a big player in this because he kind of a game changer in his own right here.
Indeed.
He ends up getting moved to the front of the line because they're all actually, why don't you explain this challenge?
Yes.
Because it was very simple, but I'm still like looking specifically for all the Steven aspects of it.
Okay, so inner tube tango is a real fancy way to say musical chairs.
Yes.
So they have so there's at this point 28 people, so there are 27 inner tubes, and they are playing music a la musical chairs, and when the music stops they need to jump into that pool and secure an inner tube, and they explain it has to be like in a certain position over their head. No holding. This is a very important rule. And yeah, whoever's left out is out of the game. And the longer you last, you get a point based on your placement. So that I believe that's how they're doing it, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And when you are out, your teammate is also out.
Right.
Yes, that's how the points then add up. Sometimes the points get a little confusing because they'll show a lot of numbers, but that's not the number that's reflected in their score in this one and then a future challenge.
Yeah, no, I was very much ignoring the numbers and just letting them tell me who's in the inner circle. But
Steven's like a nuisance during it though. So he's like halfway through. Yeah, everyone. So this is, again, imagine this is the pool that they're in. It is not an Olympic swimming pool. This is a resort hotel pool that they have also like divided in half. So you have 27 or 28 adults jumping in a pool at the same time, trying to do this. Like how no one drowned or, got a concussion. People do get hit. I think right off the bat, Steven hits Becky in the face. He also gets, I think, Hisela in the face. And so that's why they allow him to the front of the tango, which is actually to his benefit because he can get to whichever one he wants first.
Yeah, they have also a rule here, unless you already said this, apologies if so, that you can't hold on to. Yeah, you can't hold on to an inner tube.
You can't pass one along either. So that comes up a couple of times as well.
Steven doesn't do that, but he does throw a tube very far away from Holly at one point. So just like a lot of highlight on Steven and all of this. And they not only, get it into the inner circle, but they win this mission because specifically, is it both of them that are the last two in there? Or is it just Steven that was like the last one overall?
I think Steven is the last one overall, which then allows him to get it. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out this prize to call out because Steven talks about that he really wanted this prize because he needed a new one. It's a Fender guitar and an amplifier, and Steven really wanted one. So that's, I would say, a name brand that is eternal. So that's a really good prize.
Yeah, not bad. Maybe we'll pause on Steven a little bit and come back to him in the next episode, just so we can kind of complete this episode's part of the challenge. We already talked about Chadwick and his elimination with Piggy, but this is the round that it happens, and Chadwick and Piggy are in the fourth spot on the leaderboard of the Road Rule side of things. So while Holly, Chadwick's wife, again, is in power this week, there's enough people that end up in the inner circle of the Road Rules team that are looking to eliminate Chadwick and break up the power couple, break up the married couple in all of this, where specifically Emily does a lot of pushing and a lot of standing strong when even her own partner, Timmy Beggy, we haven't talked a whole lot about him. Do you have anything on Timmy?
I'm bummed that we can't talk right now. Yeah, Timmy. So when we were talking a bit earlier about, who came to play the game, who didn't, clearly it never crossed Timmy's mind that Timmy is a good time guy. Timmy wants to have fun. He's good vibes. He's a party guy. Having to make terrible decisions and hard decisions is not what Timmy was there for. Timmy came for, the experience of driving around in an RV, the open bar that I'm sure they got then at the time. He's not thrilled with this and having to, make enemies or just let somebody down. Real people pleaser.
Right. When he has to when he draws the short straw to have to make that announcement, he's obviously very upset. When he has to make this decision and be a part of the group that is sending Chadwick home, he's not looking to do so. So I know the name Timmy Beggy, so I'm interested to see what more we get from him here and in the future. He was
history wise, he was like a dynamic duo with Christian. It was Timmy and Christian. They were the bromance. They were season 2, 2 peas in a pod. His past life, I believe he was the Pittsburgh Pirates mascot, if I recall. And then he famously, he talks about like on the show, he's I believe a disgraced mascot. He had like a public like indecency scandal or something. I forget what it was. I feel like he like just skinny dipped. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, so he doesn't have that. At some point, either, I don't know if it's happened yet or if it's talked about. I know like when Susie was on her initial Road Rules, she had a major crush on Timmy. And I don't know if they ever meet in the show or whatever happens, but I do recall that being a key Susie thing.
I feel like I recall hearing her talk about this like on the podcast, her and Sarah's podcast over the years.
She was such a fangirl of the show. So, and that's why I believe she even like applied for the show. She was a Road Rules super fan.
Yeah, that's funny.
I liked Timmy. He was, very, this is that energy. Oh, it's a charismatic man demanding all the attention, all the fun stuff. Like when they do the toga contest during the downtime when they were trapped from the hurricane, Timmy shows up with a takeout container as his toga over his bits, but he is unable to win because they deem that is not an official toga, and Sharon wins instead.
I mean, look, Sharon deserved to win in the first place.
She absolutely did. But I will say, if there was if this were a RuPaul's Drag Race challenge for some quick drag and, turning around some materials, I think he would have had, maybe an okay shot.
Yeah.
In an early season, not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He would have to learn to sew.
Yeah, at this point. But just like closing the book on the Holly and Chadwick story, it was, they get like a final scene of the two of them, saying goodbye, because similar to, I guess, the Challenge All-Stars 5 and how they're doing it these days, they get to go back to the house or, stick around a little bit before, I guess, whenever their flight that they have booked home is actually going to be ready for them. So they end up just, having the scene saying goodbye, talking about how they still, Holly's by herself in the game, but at least she still has the big guy up above on her side, and basically telling us that her team is going to have a big fight ahead of them because she's coming after all of them, and she's not gonna hold back now that they've sent her husband home. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, it was very interesting too, because Holly was very adamant that what they were doing was hypocritical, because if they were trying to change the game, then they should get rid of the bottom person, not the fourth person. It was, again, that like change of tune that they have when you're the one in trouble. Very interesting to see Holly, a volatile character. And I would like to give credit to one of the quotables of the season, which is Sharon taking it with pure grace. And she writes on her sign, "Take it to the top."
Yeah, when they were writing on their own personal like signs that go up on that board, the team boards, I was like, this is very interesting. This is very like like arts and crafts. I love it.
I know. We've got to think about what we'll put on our boards.
Yes. Let's talk about the final challenge that we see in this batch of episodes. It's vertical limit. They have to climb as high as they can on these ropes that are basically like the rope that you would climb in gym class, but just
with like buoys on it or something.
Yeah, with some buoys that like kind of signified how high you were getting up there. And the winner of this challenge, Mel, $20,000 for essentially for a shopping spree at some online mall. Can you imagine an online mall that you can spend your money at?
Sadly, I think I vaguely could remember it. I also wrote down the name of it that was on the check. Timebeatforteens.com.
Love it.
I think I can tell you, I will say this much. I do not even remember that site name from, the year 2000 or 2001. Yeah. So I'm not going to type that in. That seems like a URL that if I put in my browser now, I would get some malware. But, a $20,000 spree, whatever it may be, that's a decent prize, I suppose, unless the clothes were really terrible there or whatever they sold. I have no idea.
Well, specifically, let's talk about the winners here, Danny and Kelly. Kelly was so excited to win that money because
if you
didn't know, Kelly's boyfriend, Peter, back home, apparently they were on the phone sometime recently. He told Kelly that he just bought some milk and tuna from the store and spent the last of their money. So that $20,000 was going to go to a good cause.
So, wow, such a hero. But I want to give Kelly her props as a competitor because she climbs the highest of everybody. She beats every single person there, male or female, in the competition, which is quite the feat.
It was Theo and Holly. And by the way, another person that we haven't highlighted a whole lot to this point, but Theo Von is making his debut here. Granted, it's, just another of the many people that we'll talk about that maybe we don't want to spend a ton of time talking about, but certainly
wild that he becomes a comedian because he's not funny on this. He has maybe a zinger here and there, but what is funny, actually, I don't know if it happened yet, so maybe I won't say it. I'll wait. It's the next set. I watched slightly longer than when we're going to cut off. There is something funny that happens, but it's not intentional. He's just not.
He gets a lot.
Knowing that he's a comedian, you're not seeing the earliest. If you asked right now watching the show, which of these people is the comedian of the season who must be in comedy, I think you'd assume Timmy, who's a sports news presenter or something now.
But I would say I'm not the most unsurprised because they go to him a lot for confessionals, which just tells me that they trust the way his brain works in order to give, intelligent enough commentary. And, a lot of comedy is, using your brain to write stuff that is going to work for the crowd. So I guess it's not too far off, but also, I don't know. I'm not a Theo Von guy. If that is too surprising to anybody, let me know. So Theo and Holly had been doing or have and continue to do so well so far through these episodes, but it is Danny and Kelly that are going to emerge victorious in this. And as we get to the inner circles this time around, let's start with the Road Rules team that are going to eventually use this opportunity here to send out Baloo and her partner Chris.
Yeah, they decided to change it up to make it fair and start to take on what might be a mentality to make the team a more positive space, because it was starting on a really negative foot of competition and threats. And now it's that way. And so much so that Baloo and Chris are happy to go because they feel like they deserve to go, as opposed to just, some arbitrary reason somebody else chooses for them.
Yeah, when we met Baloo and just seeing how things were going in the first couple of episodes, of course, a lot of that had to do with people talking about her child in a very certain way that wasn't pleasing to her, understandably. I just was expecting this character that was going to be, I don't know, coming off hot-headed the whole way through.
Explosive.
But she is like giving hugs. She is like happy. She understands. Chris understands too. They like know that they're a weaker team, and basically that they were kind of on borrowed time in the first place, making it past 2 eliminations to this point.
Yeah, actually, truly a shocking thing to have the person with the baby in a house of people who at most are maybe 31 years old. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. They talked a lot about, for both teams, really, how close that they've all gotten. And, I guess, again, this is still early days of elimination style games taking place, that a couple of them are like, Theo has a confessional about, I didn't come here to make sandcastles and make friendships, but we are all getting close. And the hurricane brought them all very close together. So some of these decisions are proving difficult.
Yeah, I think the hurricane bonds can't be overstated, that they were trapped together in this hotel room. And it looked like they really like summer camp it, or, if you ever went on like a class trip and they put you in rooms where they were all sharing rooms. It wasn't like everyone got their own suite. So it was like dorms again for a lot of them.
Yeah. Very interesting. And then on the real world side of things, Steven and Lindsay are not in the inner circle this week. So they're definitely a big team being discussed of if they should be the ones to go. And episode 5 is going to end on a cliffhanger. And the reason we're, continuing into part of episode 6 is, I don't know, it doesn't need to be a cliffhanger here. So we're just wrapping this all up. Real world can't seem to decide who they want to send home between Steven and Lindsay and Mike and Flora. Mike and Flora are the weaker team of the two as far as competition goes to this point, but everybody's been beefing with Steven, or a good amount of them. But though, Mel, it's tough because a lot of them really like Lindsay, and it's really hard for them to imagine the idea of sending this sweet, great competitor, great spirit person home.
Yes, one of my favorite quotables of Coral ever is when she says Lindsay was paired with this weirdo, and I think I still say it that way because I'm quoting Coral whenever I'm doing it. But they all really like Lindsay. It's just that Steven is not the energy that they want on their team. And the reason this, of course, ends up being a cliffhanger is that by doing this decision of getting rid of Lindsay and Steven, they're violating the agreement that they made as a team, the pact that they made. I don't recall seeing them actually sign anything. I know it was discussed. I don't know if it was ever in writing officially, but they've now potentially broken the code with a decision. So
yeah, I don't think that they did. Well, Steven made it sound like they did, but that we never see
wanted it.
Right,
yeah,
the signing. But so that's why he's obviously very upset when the decision is made, because he feels like this was essentially a written contract and they were all supposed to keep following it. But obviously his social relationships were not there. And Coral being in power here is like, I'm not doing this. Like, Steven went to Coral a handful of times, and again, you could tell he wanted to play this game and play it well. The first time that Coral in power of 3 times in these episodes, he's really trying to plead with her, and she sees right through it that yep. Oh, I'm in power, he's coming to me to try to make amends, but it's just they are not able to get on the same page. She just doesn't seem to like him very much. It really is kind of what it is at the end of the day. And so it's like, all right, the third elimination here, he's gotten past 2 of them. Yeah, Mike and Flora are kind of weak, but like, how deep am I going to try to go in this game with still having Steven around? So I get it, and I think it's unanimous. I think everybody was
5 out of 6. Kelly's the only one. Kelly won't vote for Lindsay, and she makes this plea, which I think I can't decide whether I think it's like very sweet or whatever, but it's like, can everyone make sure to go up to Lindsay and tell them that it's not her fault? Like, it's not cool. I don't know.
Friendships are so
who knows? I might hate Steven in person too if I was playing with him. Like, I have no idea, but it was a real weird thing to be like, please make sure you tell Lindsay. It's not her.
Yeah. And not everybody was happy with this decision on the real world team, which brings them to some drama.
It's fascinating.
Norm specifically makes a comment. I think Becky makes
Norm
a
and
comment.
Becky are nervous because I think Norm and Becky are like 4 or 5 kind of teetering and have been in the inner circle. And they feel now that they could be threatened because they weren't at the bottom before, but now they would be in trouble if they actually start to vote more, like a free will pattern.
Yeah. And when the team starts to get into some disagreement here, funny enough, it's Lindsay herself that just got eliminated. That's the one stepping in to be like, no fighting. We still need you guys to, stick strong and work together. Maybe Lindsay's thinking, or maybe all of them are thinking that there's a world that, the team is still going to split the money evenly with the people that are gone home, by the time that they're gone. And so, maybe I'm, silly for thinking that it's silly of them to continue rooting on their team once they're gone. Like Sharon too, they're just like, go team, you're going to do great. You're going to kill it. I don't know.
I'm dying to remember and see if they did end up splitting the money at the end.
I can't believe or imagine.
I cannot imagine they do. I also, is it 300? So it's $300,000, but it's to the winning team, not like everybody there. So that means
whatever that ends up meaning.
Right. And I mean, that road rule side is pretty stacked. So I think if I were, pointing to the outfield, make the shot, I would have to assume, Theo and Holly are a real threat to win this regardless. Like if this, but for some reason ever split into individual game, they'd be crazy to let those two stick around. But they're as a pair, so strong. I think she was an athlete as well, if I recall. I did some researching for her because I couldn't remember. Again, we talked a bit in the last episode, but in case anyone didn't hear this part of it, maximum velocity is pretty much lost to time. I did find through some Googling this weekend that the first 3 episodes are on archive.org or something. So there are a couple episodes archived, which I might tune in because I'm just curious, but it is basically gone. So to find out like who they are, what they were doing is a bit tricky. So Holly, I looked up and was able to find that her bio where she had put herself as like a self-described nympho.
Oh.
And just needed sex all the time.
Oh.
And was, I think, like a snowboarder or something, which is very different than the girl talking about the Bible constantly. So I'm very intrigued.
The complex human experience. Snowboarding.
Yeah, right.
Sex,
we all
Bibles.
Change and grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very different. That's why I'm like, I messaged Chat because I just couldn't remember if this was just something that I didn't recall from her journey or archetype, or even Chadwick. I remember Chadwick and Piggy just being in sort of a contentious love-hate relationship where I think Piggy had kind of maybe like a crush on him in her season. I don't think Chadwick was interested, but they would just get into tiffs a lot.
Yeah. We again 32 players in the season. As of this batch of episodes, we have lost 12 of them, leaving, I believe that math puts us at 20 players left. Also, it doesn't seem like there's consistent eliminations throughout the entire season. So at a certain point, something is going to change in the format, and we'll get to that when we get to that. I think we're planning on the next batch being approximately 6 episodes, but again, if the format leaves us on cliffhangers, we'll keep you updated, and you can always see the episode description if you are managing to watch along to see exactly what episodes we're talking about and go from there. But just like on the eliminated players, we've talked about them all to this point. Just a reminder though, Steven and Lindsay, Baloo and Chris, Sharon and Mike, Chadwick, all one and done players. We do not see any of them ever again. So we are beyond this podcast, and maybe if they get mentioned in like the discussion at the end of this season, which I'm sure they will in some way or another, we're never going to talk about these people again. I find that pretty interesting. Piggy also, this is the end of the road for Piggy. But a couple of them like John, Beth, yes, Veronica, all of our first boots, we will see back at least once more, if not many more times. So but Mel, did you have anything else on any of these eliminated players? Let's focus on the eliminated players first. Anything else on any of them?
I was definitely surprised to hear that Chadwick and Holly don't come back. I thought they did, but I would say as a one and done, they leave a huge impression. When I remembered these two, I was like, oh yeah. And I think I think I saw this on Reddit. And if I am misquoting from where it's from, my apologies if that person's out there, where someone just said like, something along the lines probably of like a Chadwick and Holly walk so Cara and Polly could run. They were probably the OG insufferable couple on the show that was like came into the game together. Very intriguing, create a lot of drama. I'll be interested to see, does this sustain as it continues, or, does Holly lighten up at all? Because sometimes we see dynamics change when you lose your significant other on any of these shows, or, whoever your ride or die is, kind of like, a Natalie and Jeremy on Survivor. So I'm intrigued to see if maybe Holly makes some friends now that she's, a lone agent along with Theo.
Yeah, remains to be seen.
No hookups yet.
No hookups. No.
We were teased
besides the married couple, if
besides
we
them,
saw that. But
which it didn't even see, honestly, based on that party when they're like, we're going to go do, they implied like
who knows what they
do that, but then they just showed them praying. So I don't really know what they do in their free time.
I don't think I want to know. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. And I will say that toga party looked very fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, when the power goes out, and if you're with a group of friends, I can't imagine it's too far off from fun. Plus, they talked about, when the communication lines came back up and they had the ability to make phone calls again, they were so happy. But like, this certainly wasn't, and I know that they wouldn't have their cell phones with them in a modern day challenge house, but like, wasn't the, oh my God, that it would be today if everybody lost.
Yeah. Like it's just, I just want to get in touch with somebody. Whereas we'd be sitting in a corner shaking because we don't know what to do without scrolling at our phones.
For sure. I just want to highlight any other players that we wanted to highlight before, we'll see more of them as they either get eliminated or go to the end of the game. One in particular, of course, you may not know this name from the challenge. Well, you do if you've been following along, but maybe you know this name more from IRL right now. Sean Duffy, of course, is still here on this season. Not a whole lot going on for him. He's got a couple confessionals going. His partner, Elka, I think she's also had like 3 confessionals to this point, but that's a team that's competing. Them or anybody else that you wanted to highlight?
Elka, for a little backstory, she is the young, naive, virginal one of her season. She mentions it too. She has a boyfriend, Walter. So she mentions that she wants to like win a prize at some point for her boyfriend, Walter. That's like
no mention
goal.
of Rachel from Sean.
Yeah, no. And I'm wondering now, like, did they start dating right away? Did it take a while? I'm not sure, because you would think it would come up. I had the same thought. They're there. They're a strong team, but
I don't think we've had any follow up on Holly and Dan from season 3. Holly,
none whatsoever. And considering that Dan was like the single most important that she's ever met in her entire life, and they just like don't acknowledge each other is very intriguing. Dan is there, and I remember Dan's partner is Tara, who was on his Road Rule season, of course. They were like kind of dating on the show, exes. So they just seem to have a chill dynamic. But I remember now in hindsight, I was like, I remember Dan and Tara, if that's like the names go together. But she's really not bringing much either. I think she just kind of was like a chill, cool girl. She reminds me, for some reason, maybe just the blondness of like Ariana from Vanderpump Rules. She's not that cool, but she was like late 90s cool.
Tara's going to be the leader in confessionals this season, so she's going to certainly be
interesting.
More relevant, I believe, as we go. But definitely hasn't been the biggest character so far. So some of those other people that fit in that category, we've obviously been focusing a lot on the people that as they get eliminated, which is the same in challenges today. So I feel like there will be more stories emerging as we get deeper. So excited to see that. We talked about Emily, who is from last season, the only person from season 4 to make the jump to season 5, and she's been pretty present throughout these episodes. But
interesting. Has a backbone more this time. Or a different kind of backbone, because she kind of was standing on business last time for the wrong stuff. But I wanted to bring up too, you brought up on the last one, very interesting to hear how much they did critique production on like a main scale at the reunion. It was very interesting to hear the idea of like, we didn't trust the show and that there was a lot of that going on. And it seems maybe like, hopefully they've learned this time about that. We'll see.
We will
never fully trust challenge production. We've learned that
still at a point today where we're not 100%, sure all the time. So, they're again learning, and mistakes certainly get made along the way. Mel, anything else from these 5 1/4 episodes?
Just a promo that if you are intrigued about who Baloo was in the past, to look up Baloo Antoine fight on YouTube. It's pretty intense. That's what I remember her for. I'm sure she did some other stuff, but that's what I remember. But just, I'm enjoying the season. It's a mix of like really good, like young people fun. The challenges are fun. Like I said, maybe they're having to pivot and make some kind of some pivots due to the weather and everything that happened down there. But I feel like it's been an interesting blend to have all of a sudden in episode 2, them be like, the mission's canceled, we have a storm, and you get an entire episode playing out of them being sequestered essentially and making do of what's happening there, and that the show didn't cancel the season right then and there and send everybody home. Very interesting.
Yeah, I remember that clip being aired, I think, on like part of the challenge documentary they did like a year or two ago. And I want to say I watched that somewhat recently, like maybe in the past couple months. So I was like, I feel like I just saw this because I just had seen clips of them talking about that as a big moment on production side of things. So obviously saw why. So very interesting stuff here. I'm sure a lot of it will come back up in the next two parts. Again, Scally and I will be back together to talk through the next, I believe, 6 episodes, and then the remaining, I believe, 5 episodes. It gets a little messy with trying to figure out exactly where the lines are. But another reunion coming this season, I believe, extended reunion, if you want to call it that. It's just more than 21 minutes. But Mel, I can't wait to see hear what you have to say after you finish watching the season as well, and see who the hell of these 32 names end up on the Mount Rushmore, and if any of them replace anybody from the overall Mount Rushmores, because I have a feeling some will. But
this feels like a strong cast to start to shake up the Mount Rushmore. I think that, not even considering the legacies that are to come, I think there's a lot of big personalities and big moments we've already seen early on that I can only imagine take over the rest of the season.
Yeah, I do feel like, unlike Ayana and with the discussion we just had, like, hard to see a world where somebody who is like in these first couple of eliminations ends up there. But like, I don't know, maybe we'll make a case for someone like a Steven who has a lot going on here if nobody else has significant stories the rest of the way. But I don't know that that's going to happen. We'll see.
We'll find out.
All right. Anything else at all finally for today?
Shout out to Eric helping hold Baloo's baby at one point. Host Eric. By the way, the hosts were partying with them in the hotel too, which was also pretty funny. Imagine like, remember when they evacuated Survivor that one episode because there was tropical storms? Imagine if they were all in the hotel and like Jeff Probst was there doing like a toga contest judging with the contestants. That's like what this was.
Because at one point they were like having a conversation about the weather, which sounds funny in without the context. But one of them was like, "Oh yeah, Eric said that it was just this and that," talking about the storm. And I'm like, "Oh, you're just casually having conversations with the host that are
just all drunk with the host in a hotel room with some great musical cues." I will say, this season's music, as mentioned, really good. I wonder if anyone out there has done like playlists and put all of these onto Spotify or Apple Music or something by season. That would be an interesting project to do. Maybe if I get really ambitious, I can do that. But I'm here for the prizes more than the music.
And also just on the hosts, Eric and Mark both competing on the next season. So we'll obviously get to that in due time. But yeah, from host to contestant. So we'll see how that goes when we get there. But first, 2 more parts to come in the Battle of the Seasons, the original Battle of the Seasons coverage. Another Battle of the Seasons to come many years later. But that's it for now. Mel, where can people find you online if they're not already following?
Yeah, you can follow me at Mel Got Served. Like I said, send me a message. Shoot me your opinions on the show. If you're watching along, I'd love to hear who else is actually finding the episodes as well. I know that some people are living vicariously through us, but if you also are getting a hold of it, reach out, share your thoughts.
Yes, definitely.
I'd love to hear.
Do so. So thank you, Mel, of course, for joining, and specifically this back half of the podcast. Again, Scally had to bow out, take care of something, but make sure you're following him on all social medias. Make sure you're following me and the podcast. All of our social media links are in the episode descriptions for every podcast. Find us on Patreon, patreon.com/The Free Agents Podcast, where we do bonus episodes every week. And all of the episodes go up early as soon as we're done recording them, ad free, if that is something that you're looking for. But that's going to do it for today. We'll be back very soon with the rest of the season 5 coverage, Battle of the Seasons. Until then, take care, and we hope to see you all in the future.